This is Michael Chuck, and today I have the privilege of interviewing Christian Picciolini.
Thank you.
And this is just an amazing privilege for me. Thank you so much for coming to Charlottesville.
It's my pleasure.
Christian is the author of White American Youth, and it chronicles his story from an immigrant, first generation immigrant, growing up in Chicago, and how at the age of 14 joined a skinhead group.
Yes.
And then at age 16 became one of the leaders of the first neo-Nazi group's movement out in Chicago.
That's correct.
And as I watch interviews that you have given, I was just struck by the level of empathy and compassion that you have for other people. And so I'm just curious, maybe it's a little bit about how you got there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long road. Certainly, I felt marginalized when I was younger, which is what led me into that movement. I had been bullied and picked on, and I felt really disenchanted with life. And I didn't know where I wanted to go. So at 14 years old, when a man approached me, who happened to be America's first neo-Nazi skinhead, he saw those potholes, those cracks that existed in my life, and as a very savvy recruiter was able to offer a narrative to fill those in, so that when I was searching for those very fundamental human needs of identity, community, and purpose, he was able to promise those to me. And certainly for a while, when I joined this neo-Nazi skinhead group, I did feel a sense of identity. I had gone from powerless to what I thought was powerful. I had no community, and suddenly I had this family. And my purpose, I didn't know what it was before I was approached, and they were very able to shape it. Of course, it wasn't positive for me or for anybody else, but at the time, I really did believe that I was saving the world.
Right. And it's interesting to me because I see what you're trying to do now is saving the world.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I really think about what I do now, and I'm still that same recruiter.
Right.
Except now, the vulnerabilities and the cracks I'm actually trying to fill with resilience, to build self-esteem in people. I'm still looking for those same fractured, broken individuals who are searching for something in life and may have gone down this neo-Nazi or white supremacist path. But because of my background and because of how I've dealt with people, I feel like I have a very unique insight on how to offer a positive narrative.
Right.
To folks.
Yes. So, for any of you who would like to kind of hear more about Christian's story, you've done so many interviews over the and they've been really great. I think for me, as a pastor, part of this Charlottesville clergy collective. Living here and trying to, as a collective, we're trying to have a positive influence in the ongoing tensions and struggles in our community and beyond. I was just, so I'm just curious because, in the work that you're doing now, right? You once said that, it's easy to hate people that you did not know.
Of course.
But now I think your work is requiring you to have a heart of compassion towards people who hate your guts.
Well, I always say that we should find the people that we feel deserve compassion the least and give it to them, because chances are good that those are the ones that need it the most.
Yeah.
And I understand why people are led to that movement. And it's not ideology. It's not dogma. It's that broken search for identity, community, and purpose. And unfortunately, sometimes we step in enough potholes, I like to call them, and those things that just deviate our path in life. Could be trauma, could be abuse, could be neglect or mental illness, could sometimes even be privilege. And that isolates them from society, so they feel marginalized. And what I'm trying to do when I work with people, not only show them compassion and empathy, but I'm trying to build resilience and self-esteem in them. Because when they feel that they're more equipped, there are less other people to blame.
Right.
They're now accountable. So I don't argue ideologically with people. I don't, battle politically and talk about the different, beliefs that people have. Instead, I show them what it's like to connect with another human being that they think that they hate. Because oftentimes, in fact, most times, 9 times out of 10, somebody who hates another person has never met them, has never had a meaningful interaction or dialogue. And that's what changed me, and in fact, that's what's changed hundreds of people that I've had the pleasure of working with, is just erasing the demonization or breaking it apart that they have in their head, the prejudice, and replacing it with humanization.
So how did that actually work for you, right? Because because I'm interested in that work.
Sure.
And for me, I have to confess, that's really hard. It's really hard for me, like on August the 12th, to receive all of that negative energy and not wanting to just push it back, right?
I think understanding that many of the reasons why they went to that movement was because people were pushing them away. So understanding that, and understanding that maybe we just need to bring people closer to us and listen and understand where they're, not listen to their ideology and not understand their ideology, but understand what led them to that, gives us the knowledge that we need to off-ramp them from that path.
All right.
I listen for potholes, and then I fill them.
Yeah, because you have experienced how that was such an important part of your journey of turning kind of your trajectory around.
And I think it's important to mention too that I received compassion from the people that I least deserved it from when I least deserved it. And that to me, aside from the birth of my children, it challenged my whole idea of identity, community, and purpose. Was I a father, or was I a hate monger?
Yeah.
Was the community the one that I'd physically given life to, or was it the one that I surrounded myself to boost my own ego? And
Right.
was my purpose to destroy the earth, or actually to build a better one for the future of my family and the people that I loved? And it was really that compassion that I received, because people saw something inside of me that I didn't even see. And these were people that I really didn't deserve that compassion from, because they were people I'd hurt. They were communities that I ostracized and caused a lot of pain to. But there were strong individuals who were able to put that aside and say, I believe there's something in this guy, and I'm going to keep trying. And ultimately, over time, it was my connection to those people that I never before would have associated with that allowed me to understand that we have many more similarities than we do differences, and that the differences are not something to be afraid of. There's something to love. It's the beauty, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the music. Those are all the things that add color to our lives. So I really appreciated that. And I realized that everybody is going through something that we know nothing about. And that sometimes leads to very poor decisions. And I think we have to foster conversations and allow ourselves to be vulnerable.
Right. I imagine in the work that you're doing now, right? I think I've heard that you receive hate mail, death threats,
Sure.
and the conversations that your advice of drawing closer to a person, that takes strength. So what either practices or what's the source that helps you to maintain that compassion, because you can't give it if you don't have it within you to offer.
Yeah, and that's something I struggle with, because I do believe in compassion fatigue, and
That's right.
and because I work with so many people where being empathetic towards them or compassionate towards them is sometimes like hitting a wall. And sometimes I work with people who say very ugly things. But I think my trick is that I really look at everybody that I'm working with as the 14-year-old me. And I understand that people are not monsters. They're capable of doing monstrous things. And I think in our society today, we tend to look at the opposition as monsters. And instead of saying, well, they're human beings who breathe and live and have issues and have joys, and we actually have a lot in common outside of the ideologies, that we actually need to focus on those things that we have in common rather than starting on the opposite ends of the extreme trying to get to the middle. Start in the middle.
Start in the middle.
And we may go off track,
Uh-huh.
but we will have established that humanity between us.
Yeah.
it's difficult if you start on the extremes to get to the middle to
Right.
understand that humanity.
Right. I also hear there are certain things in my own past that I would much rather forget,
Sure.
that I would just set aside.
I think that's true for everybody.
Yeah, that I'm ashamed of.
Sure.
There's a lot of shame.
Of course.
So, but what I'm hearing from you is, instead of like running away from one's past, what I thought I heard from you was you tapped into your 14-year-old self,
Yes.
the fears, the anxieties, the need for identity and community and purpose and the lack thereof, and trying to grasp at it in all different, not very helpful strategies to get that. And to kind of put yourself in that place, because then it opens you up to the humanity in the other person, that perhaps they're also in that place too. Did I hear you?
That is very accurate. So, I was able to remember the fears, the frustrations, the insecurities of myself. I was able to remember that. As I started to work with people, I started to hear those same things repeat themselves. And it may have, they may have been nuanced and different, but it was still always about losing something, or the fear of having something taken away. For me, it was the fear of not belonging,
Yeah.
and wanting to be accepted. And that drew me in. And in fact, almost everybody I've worked with, and I've helped over 100 people disengage, when I ask them, what led you there? Because I'm curious. They always give me the same answer. I just wanted to belong to something.
Yeah.
And the ideology came later. That's the tie that binds them all. That's the license that gives them, a reason to be angry. It's the vehicle for violence.
Yes.
But it is not what led them there. What led them there is this feeling of inadequacy, or low self-esteem, or marginalization, or trauma, or shame, where they're now taking their own pain, their own self-hatred, and projecting it onto other people so that they don't have to deal with their own pain. There's a phrase, hurt people hurt people, and it's very true. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a neo-Nazi white supremacist movement, or ISIS, or an inner city street gang, or drug abuse, or promiscuity. People end up in bad places when they're continuously not finding the support that they need. And I think that we are failing society in many ways, because our most vulnerable people are not getting guidance. They're not getting the support they need. And right now, I believe that our most vulnerable are young people who are searching.
Yes, right. And they want that purpose. They want to be able to change the world.
And it's also very common that people enter this white supremacist movement at the age of 14, 15, 16, when typically young people are developing ideas in the world. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, and then they're given promises that can never be kept, that are given to them by very selfish, very low self-esteem. I've never met a white supremacist with good self-esteem. Even the leaders, are looking to manipulate people to fill their own needs for control, or power, or selfishness.
So I imagine that you have a very, very busy schedule. It's physically and emotionally demanding. So like at the end of the day, right, you're maybe like in your hotel room. You may not have the community that would be there to really support you, right? I'm just curious, like what do you do to kind of fill that tank up, so that then you can then get up out of bed and do what you do the next day?
Well, much of it has to do with me having planted so many seeds of hate years ago, 30 years ago. I've been out of the movement now for 22 years. But I'm still pulling up the weeds that are coming up from those seeds. I understand I have a very unique insight and a very unique purpose. Something that, a skill that most people don't have. I'm assuming you were never a neo-Nazi or part of a white supremacist group. But I have that insight now.
Yeah.
I use that insight, that psychology, the same psychology that I used to use when I was recruiting people into the movement, to identify what it was in their life that was broken. and then offer a solution to fix it. But now I'm offering a real solution. So I will make people more resilient, more self-confident by offering them services that they need. So job training, or career counseling, or life coaching, mental health therapy, tattoo removal, so that they can become more confident and don't have the need to blame the other.
Okay, so one final question.
Sure. I didn't answer your question though. What do I do to recharge?
Oh yes, yeah. What do you do? Yes, thank you so much.
No problem. I have a hard time doing that because I am constantly in the woods, dark, dealing with people with issues that are sometimes traumatic, very traumatic.
Yes.
To them. I have built a community of people that I've helped that now help me. These are people who have left that old life behind, but are now committed to doing amazing things in the world. I mean, they're some of the best human beings I know, and I really rely on them and my family and friends like you to continuously push me along. I tell you, working with somebody from the beginning to the end is a long process. It's very, very hard. But when I get to the end, when I feel that success, and I see a person's life change and their eyes open up to a world that they never knew, that to me is what thrills me.
Right. So then one final question.
Sure.
As part of the Clergy Collective, what word of encouragement or advice would you give to us pastors, faith leaders, because this is long work.
Yes.
It's not just, one demonstration or march and everybody's mind's going to change.
Absolutely.
What word might you give to us to encourage us to continue?
Listen. Most people, especially young people, don't like to be talked to. They want to be heard. And I think it's important that we very, acutely listen, maybe not to what people are saying, but just listen with our, ears and our eyes and our heart to what is missing in their life that we can provide. That's really my trick. I listen more than I speak.
Yeah.
And when I listen, I feel like I absorb people's pain, and then I understand what I need to do to help them. And I'm not prescriptive. I don't walk into a situation and say, you're wrong.
You need
this
to
is
do
what
this.
You need to do. I listen and then I try to offer things that they want, and sometimes they don't even know they want. But that fulfills them.
Right. So I'm a coach, so
Yeah.
when I hear that, like, oh yeah, I mean, I get that. That sounds familiar. And what I'm also hearing is that it's not necessarily the content of the words that people say. That what you're listening for is the needs of the universal human needs of that person's heart and life.
Right. I'm listening to the why.
And the why, the purpose, which leads to it's based upon one's identity, and in order to sustain that work, one needs a community to do that.
Yeah, and I think one final word of advice, especially regarding this community, which is in such turmoil over the horrific incidents that happen, is, I think they've polarized us. And now good people are attacking other good people who may have a different opinion of how to deal with this. And the truth is none of us really know how to deal with this because this is fairly new, especially for this community. I advocate that there's a big gray area there that we need to start paying attention to, that it's not black and white, it's very complicated, and there are no black and white solutions to a complicated problem.
Right. Wow. So not only compassion and empathy for those who are against us,
Yes.
but also compassion and empathy for those who are also trying in their own way, but maybe with different strategies to accomplish the same goals that we share.
Absolutely. We all live in a community. We all, want happiness and safety for our children and health and a good education. And I think that we need to understand that despite our differences, whether we're on the good side, the bad side, we all have those needs, and we need to really listen to each other and try to fulfill those, because we're all just a little bit broken, and we need each other.
Yeah. Thank you, Christian.
Michael, it was my pleasure.
Oh my goodness, I really
you
so enjoyed and this conversation, and
Likewise.
blessings on your work, and thank you for being here. Christian's about to speak here at Mount Zion First African Baptist in about an hour.
Yes.
So I will let you go so that you can prepare yourself.
I appreciate it, Michael. It was a real pleasure.
Oh, pleasure is mine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.